Serves you right. D. George 85 says, Moby Dick. Echoes of the Arcade says, oh is Hutch here. Matinator says, damn. Bomb Diggity 1997 says, you're a bad guy. Awazo says, 8 less bomb 4. Art Ludic says, it's Dumais. XX Stremix says, Liars Bar. Nurse Tifarn says, LOL it ice. Jaron Hubert says, Liars Bar. Drawn says, Max Loss.
Red dice, scam.
Tommy Bahama says, $10,000 win script or $20,000 win script, that's it. Cobblestone Slab says, 7 times. Apex Jedi says, gotta be here for 30 minutes now. Have you been enjoying group games recently with that group of Serve says, second top stake streamer and gets 200k a day. Oneist says, Sana. Lunch Bowl says, power moment. Not a big surprise says, AI slops. Fui says, KEKW. Kuramo Hit says, it's warming up. Pledtile says, Sudoku. Even Thorazin says, it's essentially shotgun roulette. Shabbily Play says, this feels like a fever dream. Xpunisher 99 PRX says, NPC. Mesmerize 009 says, lol. Vegas says, new silo is worth watching Loki IRLY, enjoy it. Mountain Kunka AIXD says, I just busted. Kunke says, only 126 days till Christmas, I can't wait to get jolly. S0At0Nar0 page 3 says, drink. Kuramo Hit says, damn. Jeffrey Jam says, LOOOL. Scott Hadislag subscribed. Subscribed with Prime. Milan T says, double rainbow maybe? BL Eiley says, Gingy watching you guys kill each other. Stream Element says, Action Next 01X went all in and lost every single one of their 50 nuts lol. The Mudbone says, we lit. Mesmerize 009 says, LOOOL. Obi Duncanali I says, it's giving you something. Drazik 91 says, haha. Jason says, sick ass game. 1D subscribed. Subscribed with Prime. They've subscribed for 2 months. Frosty Cook says, she's go. Mercu. Redhero 12 says, LMAO. Avalil says, cheater. NK7 Ekanuke says, fuck up and shit palm. Tail says, lol. Even Thorazin says, it's shotgun roulette, if you guess right you get to go again at the burnt peanut. Real JY says, got ya. Frosty CJ89 says, that was amazing. Monty 6868 says, dunked on. Stephen Pep says, just super turbo it. Bomb Diggity 1997 says, she must be the one that wears the pants in the relationship. Kuramo Hit says, scam. Isla Vale says, Odin's Vault did good yesterday at XQC. Stotwhip says, Waylanders at XQC. Boof Guy says, literally just scammed. Meister Silly says, I love Gingy. EA Olmas says, have you maxed coin game yet at XQC? Tommy Bahama says, Anubis O's. Vathan says, do the Cowboy one at XQC. EA Olmas says, Have you maxed coin game yet at XQCI? Lord says, good leave into a bad entry. Terminator 9517 says, LOL. Xpunisher 99PRX says, LOL. Official Silhouette says, do they speak coconut? Shepard says, Stormforged PCs LUL. Super Noob 65 says, now drain. Stream Element says, Action LZNels lost 15 peanuts in roulette and now has 1080 peanuts. It's busted my jit. Fuller Dose says, I think there's a nuke fuel as well. Honor Fast says, Storm Drain. Matinator says, JamSlab9 says, Hacksaw equals GG. Logange 200,000 says, Lee. SoundCloud 565 says, fuck it spreadsheet for some stellar punishment spins. Bliburba says, Buddy thinks he can go B2B profit on Hacksaw slots. Jennifer says, for crown. Stream Element says, Action Pletile went all in and lost every single one of their 250 nuts lol.
Prison movie?
B Prairie says, I work for Nala City. I prepared the loop for you at XQC. Medium Cookie says, Starlight Princess misses you. Pure Mosque 3147 says, what are we Tome of Madness. Tardriz says, more stones path. Antithesis of Space says, 5 houses. Xintnu says, Tome of Madness. Space M00 says, Kikik. We Sespur says, he's not. NK7 Ekanuk says, it's NPC. Bomb Diggity 1997 says, they broke
不
the
管是
game.
我们是在128，
Rimptically
那我们
says,
是128
ha 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 ha. Zodarful says, go next.
他们6。